Hello everyone, welcome to ProdEgyIAS, and today again we are here with a very important topic in the sociology paper, and today we are going to discuss about Herbert Spencer. He was one of the most important sociological thinker, and what are his contributions to the sociology discipline? Today we are going to discuss that. Herbert Spencer, Society as an Organism and Social Evolution. So, Herbert Spencer was a British social philosopher who was widely influential in the 19th century. He was born in 1820 and was a self taught intellectual who crossed many fields, but he is best known in sociology for two big ideas: comparing society to a living organism and applying evolutionary theory to social development. If Comte was the father of sociology, Spencer was like the cool, if controversial, I can say, uncle who popularized terms like survival of the fittest. In fact, Spencer coined that famous phrase, not Darwin, to explain how societies naturally weed out the weak and reward the strong. Spencer's context was Victorian England during and after Charles Darwin's work, so evolutionary ideas were in the air. He believed that societies evolved from simple to complex forms, just like organisms do. Now we will discuss his major contributions to the discipline of sociology. Spencer's theory of social evolution posited that societies, like biological organisms, start simple and homogeneous and become more complex and heterogeneous over time. For example, early societies had few institutions, just family and tribe, but as they evolved, new institutions like economy, religion, education, government, etc., differentiated and specialized. This leads us to his most famous analogy, the organic analogy. Spencer compared society to a living organism such as the human body. Now we'll discuss how he explained that. Like in an organism, you have different organs: heart, lungs, stomach, and that have specific functions. Every organ have a specific function, and they all depend on each other for the organism's survival. Similarly, in society also, you have institutions like family, education, government, industry, religion, etc., which are like the organs of the body. Each has a role and all are interdependent. Spencer wrote that if one part of the society changes or malfunctions, other parts must adjust to maintain the whole society. For instance, if the economic system faces a crisis, other institutions like government, family will also feel the impact. There will be a ripple effect and they will have to adapt. Just as a body compensates when one organ is injured, society adapts when one part faces the stress. This idea that every part contributes to the stability and survival of the whole is a cornerstone of what later became structural functionalism, though Spencer himself predated that school. To Spencer, social stability and integration was signs of a healthy society, just as equilibrium is for a body. He even used the term social organism. Now we will discuss the analogy. Like, think of a city during a crisis, like a pandemic which we faced in 2020. Hospitals, health institutions are strained, which triggers government action, economic shifts, changes in the family life and education, online schooling, like COVID-20 pandemic, which we all went through in 2020. Spencer would nod and say for it, see, society is working like a body, each part responding to keep the whole alive. Another contribution is Spencer's application of Darwinian ideas to the society, dubbed social Darwinism. He argued that through natural competition and survival of the fittest, society naturally eliminates the weak and advances the strong. Spencer believed that if left alone, social problems would sort themselves out as the fit, wealthy and capable succeed, and the unfit, poor and weaker will fail. He was against government intervention in social or economic affairs, claiming that it would interfere with this natural evolutionary process. For example, he opposed extensive welfare for the poor, contending that it keeps unfit individuals from facing the consequences that would motivate social improvement. A view that is highly controversial and widely criticized today. So, note that UPSC may expect a critical evaluation of it. right? And it comes in that format only. Now, we will have a simple analogy for Spencer's ideas. Imagine society as a big football team. There are different positions, strikers, defenders, and a goalie, each with a distinct role, just like institutions, family, economy, etc. The team works well only if everyone does their part and works together. If the goalie, say the government in our analogy, is weak, the defenders, maybe the legal team, legal system, or the police, have to step up more to prevent goals. Similarly, to how if one institution fails, other must compensate. Now, think of team selection as the survival of the fittest. Only the best players get picked for the team, weaker players will get dropped. Spencer's social Darwinism is like saying society should drop its weakest links, harsh, I must say, and not give them undue support so that overall the team, the society becomes stronger. This is an analogy to how he rationalized inequality, a point to critically reflect on. Now we will see the exam cue in this. In UPSC, Spencer might not appear as frequently as Marx or Durkheim, but his concepts are indirectly very important. For instance, a question might not say, explain Herbert Spencer's ideas outrightly, but it could ask about organic analogy or social Darwinism. In fact, in an earlier year, UPSC asked a short note on the organic analogy in society. If you see that, immediately think of Herbert Spencer. You did answer by describing how society is like a biological organism with independent parts and give examples citing Spencer. Or consider a question on the evolution of societies. You can mention Spencer's view that societies evolved from military, more rigid and homogeneous, to individual, more flexible and differentiated types, which is another distinction he made, military versus industrial society. Also, Spencer's idea of survival of the fittest might be referenced in a question about theories of social change or inequality. But be cautious. If a UPSC question asks for a critique of the idea that helping the poor weakens the society, they are indirectly referring to social Darwinism. You should explain Spencer's stance but also note its criticisms. Example, it justifies inequality and neglects the ethical duty to support vulnerable sections. Points a well rounded answer would include. Now we will discuss how Spencer shaped sociological scientific foundation. Spencer's work pushed the analogy between society and science, especially biology, further than anyone before. He brought in concepts from biology like evolution, adaptation, interdependence to sociology, reinforcing the idea that society could be studied in a systematic law like way. Natural way. He tried to identify universal laws of social evolution, which is a very scientific ambition. Moreover, by emphasizing structure and function of parts of the society, Spencer laid groundwork for later sociologists like Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parsons to think of society analytically as a system. In a way, Spencer helped cement the notion that studying society's structure, organs, like institutions and their functions, contributions to the whole, is a key scientific approach in sociology. However, also remember that some of the Spencer's views, like non interference, are more ideologically driven. In science terms, many have been discredited or modified. For UPSC, you might note that Spencer's methodology was more speculative, unlike Durkheim or Weber. He did not do systematic data studies, which is a limitation of his scientific contribution. Yet, his comparative and evolutionary perspective was influential in making people see societal development as something that can be studied with general principles, much like a science of society. Now we will see a real life illustration. Consider how we often speak about a nation's institutions today. We say things like the economy is the backbone of the country or the education is the lifeblood of the society. These metaphors echo Spencer's organic analogy. Backbone, lifeblood. We are using body terms. Where a big company closes, its economic organ fails, we worry about the ripple effects, unemployment affecting the families of the workers, less tax revenue affecting the government services, social unrest affecting the law and order. We are implicitly recognizing the interdependence Spencer talked about. This way of thinking in interconnected systems is a very much part of a scientific approach to society. And Spencer was a pioneer of that systems thinking. Now we will discuss the critique and the exam application of this sociological thinker. If you are asked to evaluate Spencer, you did mention his contributions as above, but also note criticism. For example, his social Darwinism has been criticized as a justification for inequality and imperialism, and it downplays human empathy and ethics in society. Also, unlike Durkheim, Spencer didn't ground his theories in robust empirical research. He was more of a synthesizer of ideas. So, in an exam, showing this balanced view can fetch good marks. Now we will conclude this and what could be your takeaways. To recap Herbert Spencer's script for you, here are the key points I am giving you. First, society as an organism. Spencer's famous organic analogy. Society is like a living body with interdependent parts, institutions working for the stability of the whole. Changes in one part lead to adjustment in others to maintain equilibrium. Second, social evolution. Societies evolved from simple to complex. He introduced an evolutionary perspective in sociology. He distinguished types of society, example, military versus industrial, in evolutionary terms, highlighting increasing differentiation and cooperation. Third, very important, survival of the fittest, which is often called social Darwinism. Spencer applied natural selection to social life, arguing that competition and natural hierarchy lead to social progress. He believed that aiding the less fit through welfare could harm society's natural development. Remember to approach this idea very critically. It is largely discredited now, but historically important. Fourth, minimal state intervention. From his evolutionary view, Spencer concluded that government should leave society alone as much as possible, letting social evolution run on its own accord. In this, in this view, society has self-correcting mechanism like an organism does. And the fifth, influence on scientific sociology. Fifth, influence on scientific sociology. In relation to biology, Spencer encouraged a systematic comparative study of societies. His work foreshadowed functionalist ideas, function of social organs, and added to the notion that general laws of society's growth could be discovered. For UPSC, even if Herbert Spencer's isn't directly in a syllabus list, his ideas permeate many topics. Use his organic analogy in essays or questions about social structure, and mention social Darwinism when discussing theories of inequality or the history of social thought. Spencer's vision was grand, a synthetic philosophy uniting biology, psychology, and sociology. That ambition to treat sociology as a science of society's evolution is a big part of why he is remembered. Just be ready to critique that approach with modern understanding. So, here we finish our class, our lecture on Herbert Spencer. We'll again come here with again new topic in the sociology UPSC paper. Till then, stay tuned for more updates at the rate of ProdEgyIAS.